There's a first step for every single firm, whether you're just starting, whether you've been doing it for 20 years. But essentially, what we want to do is we want to create a good foundation.
Hi, this is Christian Jones, and you're listening to the Pro Marketer podcast. Whether you're in the tax compliance and preparation, tax resolution, accounting, or any of the other many slices of our industry, this podcast is designed to bring you tools and strategies to help you market and build your practice like a pro. And we've got an awesome guest today. We've got a whole lot of awesome guests we brought on in the past, but today I'm especially excited have Ryan Lazanis of Future Firm talking with us today. Ryan, welcome to the Pro Marketer podcast.
Christian, a real pleasure. Thank you very much for having me here today.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure on our end as well to have you. And guys, here's the main takeaway, the main agenda for today is Ryan's wheelhouse, which is how to systematize an accounting firm to help you realize work-life balance. And I might even add, Ryan added excellent work-life balance. And we're recording this in March of 2024. And so as Ryan and I were talking offline before we started the recording, a lot of you right now are drowning and might hate what you've chosen to do with your life. You might just be frustrated with your customers, with how hard it is to hire good staff, with your pricing model that you didn't know was going to bite you on the back end, with the way that you've just built your practice. And so some of you are doing better than this. It's not all bad. Some of you are doing quite well because you've heeded some of these principles. But we've got with us today Ryan, who's a bit of a guru in terms of taking someone under the hood of the car of their business and trying to find ways to turn what can feel like a drain and a frustration and something you might want to escape, but you feel bound to. It feels like shackles, and turn into something that's life-giving and enjoyable and something you look forward to and have excitement about. Ryan, if you want to add anything to that, feel free. But if not, let's get into it and talk about what got you into this space. Give us just a brief origin story. How did you find yourself developing and launching Future Firm?
Future Firm was the resource I wish I always had when I was a firm owner. And I launched one of the first online accounting firms in North America over 10 years ago. And I didn't have a blueprint to run that kind of modern business model in the accounting profession. And it was my first business. So I had no clue what I was doing. And I started from scratch with 0 clients. The only skills I had were as a CPA and as an accountant. And Christian, as I mentioned to you before we started recording this, I'm actually a terrible accountant. I don't even do my own taxes. I don't do my own accounting anymore. I'm a hazard. So I was really starting on a pretty bad foot. No experience with marketing, little experience with sales, no experience hiring or managing anyone, no experience managing clients. I made a ton of mistakes. I basically made every mistake possible, but I had a lot of good ideas. And I was able to implement these ideas. It took me a long time in my opinion, longer time than it should have to realize the success I wanted. And I was able to eventually figure out the system to build an accounting firm that didn't require to work crazy hours, and took my firm from scratch all the way to acquisition in just 5 years. It was acquired by a large corporate services firm based out of Europe. So I knew right away, even before the acquisition, even before I went through the acquisition, I knew exactly what I wanted to do next. And that was to launch Future Firm to help others fast track their success. So I just wish I had someone to lean on when I was creating my firm. So I didn't have to have all those hiring mistakes. So I didn't have to have, all those sleepless nights I had in the early days and all those pricing mistakes and marketing mistakes. So that's what Future Firm is for, is we provide a lot of content and resources to help fast track people's success when it comes to their accounting firm, help them work less and create a model that is smooth and scalable. And we do that through our blog, our podcast, our newsletter, and specifically in our Future Firm Accelerate online coaching program, which has over 700 members from around the world that all get access to these coaching and resources and community forums and stuff of that nature.
Hmm. Man, that's awesome. And obviously greatly, greatly needed. And there is a huge surge of both demand for accounting firms like the ones you serve, like the ones we serve, and yet not as many people helping that business develop and become something that is like, hey, headed towards success. So we love that you're doing that in our space. Thanks for starting that business and taking the risk of saying, I think people need this, because clearly they do. Clearly it's a huge need. But let's talk about the process you put people through. And then maybe we'll also get into a little bit later, like the most common problems you see. But let's just pretend I'm coming to you, Ryan, and I say, hey, I've got an accounting firm, been around a few years. Where are you going to start me in your process? What would you start to poke at or address or teach me on? What are the things you think I need to hear if I'm a new member of your coaching society or getting your content?
There's a first step for every single firm, whether you're just starting, whether you've been doing it for 20 years. But essentially, what we want to do is we want to create a good foundation. And a lot of people, we're dealing especially with people that are very, very busy and overwhelmed. So we need to get results
Right.
pretty quickly. We need to get
Right.
traction pretty quickly. And what most people are looking for, they come to me and they say, I either need more leads, so I need great marketing, or most people, what they're doing is they're coming to us and saying, things are out of control or they're going to be out of control soon. And we need more automation. We need better processes. We need better workflows. We need better technology. And usually my first question is, how many clients do you have? And how much on average are you charging? And what's typically included? And what that is telling me is if we, and most of the time the answer is they're undercharging and they're developing their offering in a very non-scalable way. It's very hard to scale professional services due to the expertise. It's hard to scale expertise. And if we have to do something in a completely custom way for every single client, it just becomes very hard to scale that. So I'm trying to tune into, firstly, though, if we have a lot of clients and our average price is quite low, more leads is just going to exasperate the situation. And better processes or workflows are just going to lead to incremental gains.
Right.
So the core of the issue is that we first have to fix your packaging and pricing strategy. So that's always step one. We don't want more leads on that are coming on board with bad packages and bad pricing.
Right.
And by the same token, we don't want more clients that are on bad packaging and bad pricing. Fixing processes isn't going to do a whole lot. So we need to fix the packaging and pricing strategy first. So that's always step one of our system is look at the packaging and pricing. If it's good, we move to step two. But most often, that's something that we often have to look at fixing. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time to fix that. With a couple tweaks, we could drastically increase prices.
Do you, as a part of this process, commonly encourage the folks that come to you to go back to their existing client base and do price raising? Or is it forward looking with new clientele, new service packages, keep your legacy, move forward this direction? Or again, back to the original idea, hey, let's go back and deal with your existing legacy base first and talk through that process. I'm just curious which you
It's a very
prefer, or
good
if there's
question. It's
nuance.
going to depend on the firm. It's easier to do it prospectively,
Yeah.
but here's the thing. If we're dealing with a tax heavy firm and they have 500 tax clients, 100 tax clients, 1,000 tax clients, they have a lot of tax clients, let's say.
Right.
Most of them are engaged in underpricing. And what we teach going like prior to busy season, what we teach is how could we drastically reduce those prices on that client base, knowing full well a big chunk of them aren't going to come along for the ride. What does that do? That brings in the same amount of revenues. If we do it right, same amount of revenues or more with less capacity required because we have less clients. And let's face it,
Right.
there's a big chunk of those clients that aren't the type of clients we want anyway. So it's
Right.
going to depend on the firm and the time of year. But really, what we want to do is we want to roll that out across everybody. It's easier to do it prospectively, but there's a big
Right.
chunk of clients that are taking up a big chunk of our capacity and a big chunk of our time that are not profitable, or they're clients that we just don't want to be servicing. So we have to treat that properly as well. So
Yeah.
we do have to attack both. What we attack first is going to depend on time of the year and the firm itself.
Yeah. So knowing there's nuance there, it's not always one size fits all of what you would recommend.
Mhm.
Let's pretend it's a legacy base that you do want to go price raise, and prospectively in the future, let's raise these packages and pricing and value, the perception of what you're offering as a
Yep.
professional. But let's
Hmm.
go back first. When you present that to folks, that that's the right path, do you commonly hear resistance? Do you hear fear? Is there like trepidation of like, I don't think my people are going to go for that. There's no way. This is how I built my name. This is how I built my business. They know me for that, and I'm going to lose everything. Maybe that's extreme, but do you hear something like that?
Definitely. And I think like we have to do it in a way that makes people comfortable. We can't just go to 1,000 of your clients and say, hey, everybody, we're
Right.
quadrupling your prices today.
Yeah.
That's why you could do that. There are some that do it, but there are smaller steps you can take if you plan accordingly. Let's say we're repricing 1,000 tax clients. Again, some firms are a lot less than that. Some firms might have a lot more than that. But let's just say it's 1,000 tax clients, which is a decent amount of tax clients. So how are we going to do that? Well, we can bucket your clients. So we could say these are our D clients, or C clients, or B clients, or A clients. So why do we want to use that strategy on our A clients first and burn through those if we're not confident? So use the strategy on the D clients first. Get some confidence there. If we can convert a chunk of those over, you're going to be pretty happy. And if we lose a chunk of those, you might not be super upset. So, like everything in business is an iterative process. There's
Right.
a iterative process you can go through. And that's how I view it with anything that we do. So I could show you the system. It's not going to be 100% perfect for everyone. So I'm also going to show you how to launch this system in a way that's not going to make you nervous, and in a way on which you can iterate on it.
That's good. I know there might be some people saying that sounds great for everyone else it's worked for, but it won't work for me. But let me just encourage you, like what Ryan just gave you, there's more to come. There's more that he does, but that in and of itself is most people's problem, as Ryan's articulated. Most people's problem is, how do I get out from a client base I've built that I need to rethink it? I have to build it out in a new direction in order to achieve the goal of success that Ryan's put forward.
Yeah.
So that's something
And just
worth
to
reflecting on.
kind of add to that, the biggest
Please.
lever I see when it comes to working less and earning more is the packaging and pricing strategy, in my opinion. That is the biggest lever, because that controls what you do and the money you get for that. So there's a strategy around packaging and presenting something that looks good to your client and connects with your client. And it's very much that package that you show is very much a marketing document. So you might appreciate that,
Oh,
Christian. So what you
absolutely.
call your services and how you present them, that is marketing. So a lot of firms
Mhm.
just aren't doing that very well.
And let's go there next. I'll let you decide which, sales or marketing. They're obviously quite connected. But when you then take someone and you've kind of established, okay, we've got new packaging,
Mhm,
pricing, service bundle, we've repositioned you to existing clients, to new clients.
mhm,
Now, how do you help someone? Again, there's a lot of variety in our space. We've got some people that sales feels natural, or just getting themselves out there and marketing, going and shaking hands and being at events, or running ads, whatever it may be. And a lot that don't. So how do you take someone and say, listen, we fixed your package. Now we need to talk about how you do sales. Is that a part of what you guys coach people through?
Yeah, the packaging and pricing goes hand in hand with sales, because what we
Right.
teach for the most part is to price the client and to try and maximize price on a client by client basis. And in order to maximize price on a client by client basis, we have to understand a sales process to take them through. So we know how to assign a price. And, I'm appealing to people that are maybe not very comfortable in sales, and
Yes.
people that are mostly introverted. Not to say that there's not extroverts in our profession, in the accounting profession, but people just like me who is pretty introverted and is pretty shy and would maybe rather not be in a sales call. And there
Right.
are ways to have a gentler sales process. And that's why I like the three-tiered approach: gold, silver, bronze, packages and pricing. And you develop those for each client and you present to each client, you have them choose, because it's very gentle. It's not take it or leave it. You're
Right.
saying, you're putting it into their core and say, well, we went through this call with you. We understand your needs. Here's three different options. Which one would you like? Which one do you want to start with? So it
Mm.
starts to change the framing of the discussion and the thought process. And we're appealing to the typical accountant mindset who mostly are on the introverted side of things. Not to say we don't have extroverts in our community as well, but we're developing a sales process that's geared for firm owners.
Yeah. Let me ask a question on that. Do you ever find yourself, or is it a part of the nuance, again, how you help someone build success? Is it about strategic hires to take sales off of their plate altogether? Does that become a viable option you guys pursue? Or is it mostly, and probably always should be still, let's make sure you know how to do it and then maybe
Yeah,
pass it on? How do you plan for that?
you know what? There's a lot of, I know some very successful firms that have scaled with sales reps, but they've had the technical partners train those sales reps. So I do think that the partner firm owner does have to understand that. I think everything in business is sales at the end of the day. I have a specific podcast episode about that. We have to, how you deal with your team is sales, how you recruit people is sales, how you interact with it's not just about landing clients, but it's about retaining clients. So almost everything you do as a business leader is sales. So I think you
Yeah.
do have to understand those concepts, even if you don't want to be selling new services to a client. But yeah, you can scale firms. It's not something that we teach in our program, and we see very few firms doing this, but you can have successful firms that have sales reps or account executives to do the selling for you if you don't want to do it. I just think that that's probably something you should have as a skill in your toolbox.
Even if it's not something you're going to do long term, own it, try and practice it. Because if you're going to be accountable to oversee people that are going to run with it eventually, it
Mhm.
is something that even if you're the introvert, even if you're uncomfortable, you can do it. You
Yeah.
can do it because the thing that I think with sales gets in people's head is you start thinking about yourself and how you're going to be perceived, or that I haven't done this before. And especially to business owners who are coming to you, which is, okay, marketing. How did they come to you? Let's talk about that too. How do we pre-qualify them and put you in front of the best, most relevant, valuable leads? That's a process in and of itself, but let's just pretend you're there to then have the confidence that like you belong and your prices are worth it and you're adding a ton of value that I think, again, accountants tend to miss. It's
Mhm.
getting better. I think it's getting better. There's a lot of people talking about this. There's a lot of organizations trying to help, including you, Ryan, but there's still, I think, the vast majority of people that just doubt their value. They doubt they belong. They doubt that they could pitch an ongoing engagement beyond just project-based work.
I totally agree that confidence is a big issue. And that's one of the reasons, again, why we like the three-tiered pricing approach, because
Right.
if you're not giving three tiers, the tendency is to underprice to get the client through the door. And if you are giving three tiers, then you're giving yourself opportunity to move upstream. And you'll be surprised at how many people pick your more premium packages when you present them. So
Right.
that's another thing is you can give yourself confidence if you have certain tactics again in your toolbox.
I love that. Okay, let's maybe marketing. And then also you just mentioned something about, well, we talked about hiring a sales team,
Yeah.
but I want to ask you about hiring too. Okay, I'm building a successful firm. And like, where, if anywhere, do I need to scale my team? And I know there's a lot of variety there depending on what you have already, but maybe let's do marketing first.
Yeah.
I've got my sales package.
Yeah.
I've got my pricing. I've got some confidence. Brian infused me with a bit of zeal so I can get on the phone now and give him my three-tiered pricing. Okay, but now where do I get leads from, Ryan? What do you guys coach people through? How do you do
Yeah.
that?
So that's step two of our system. So we have a 6-step system so that you could scale your firm up while reducing your workload. So step two is, now that we have good pricing and packaging strategy in place, we need some kind of lead generation engine. We need leads
Yeah.
coming through the door on a regular basis, because going out and hunting for leads, especially if we don't know what we're doing, is very time consuming. And
Right.
if things are just coming to us randomly, it might be the wrong type of client, and we might be inclined to accept those wrong type of client into the firm if we don't have much coming our way. So we want to be in the driver's seat, basically. And we want to make sure that we have that a constant flow of revenue coming in, so that if we want to start hiring and growing the firm, we need to have some confidence there. So I don't really care what the marketing all different types of marketing works. I think you guys do, you do ads, you do SEO, you do email marketing, social media. I don't care what it is. We have our preferences at Future Firm Accelerate, and it's based off the stuff that works very well for us, which is email marketing. I'm a big,
Yes.
big fan of email marketing, but that's not to say it's the best type of marketing out there. So I think
Mhm.
firms need to understand their own personality as well, understand what they best connect with, especially if they're going to be doing it themselves. And in some instances, they're going to be best served by just completely outsourcing it. Most firm owners, they know nothing about marketing. They spend a lot of time in marketing and they just waste a lot of time because they don't have much to show for it. Yeah, I'm kind of going off on a few tangents here and I totally forgot your question, but
No,
ultimately,
that's it.
I think you have to understand who you're going after, what your value proposition is, and pick one or two marketing channels and work those channels and not try to, do 10 different things at once and try to figure out all those things at once. Pick one or two things. We like email marketing, but we also teach like partnership marketing,
Right.
building partnerships with others. So you have access to their audience. So you're not building an audience up from scratch.
Mhm.
Yeah, I went off in a few directions. I don't know where you want to take this, but I'll
That's
let you take
perfect.
it from here.
No, that's perfect. And at TaxProMarketer, something Nate Hagerty, our founder, has said that's just stuck in me. And the first few events I was at with him, where I heard him say it first, it's been with me for years. There's not one way to get 100 clients. There's 100 ways to get one client, and you should probably consider doing all of them. And again, some channels are going to be more viable than others. It's been a few years since this talk was given, but we are in the digital marketing space, of course, at TaxProMarketer, and Digital Marketer itself is an authoritative, great resource that trains marketing agencies. They've got lots of programs and certifications. And I'll also never forget Ryan Dice, the founder of Digital Marketer. It was during the middle of COVID when there was just panic. And there was also a lot of new tech kind of coming into the digital marketing space. And being a digital marketing training outfit, you're going to get a lot of shiny objects. You're going to get a lot of things that come forward that are like, try this. Here's this new thing. Let's go TikTok. Let's do the ads over here. And some of
Mhm.
that can work. We've seen the TikTok ads play work. There's a few people that are just crushing it, right? But his keynote speech, it's probably 2021 at their traffic and conversion summit, was email marketing is your secret weapon and is the most valuable tool because marketing at the end of the day is relational. You need
Mhm.
clicks, you need
Yeah.
eyeballs, you need visibility. But at the end of the day, if that's all you're getting, and if you're not following up with relational, authoritative, valuable email to help position, to do what Ryan's talking about, which is you're always selling, you're always building trust and authority. That's something that email does better than anything. And so, huge thumbs up that that's where you guys plant your flag. Yes, ads can work. Yes, organic SEO. Yes, your website. Yes, social media. There's lots of ways to get clients. But in terms of scaling and keeping clients, that's a huge thing because you want to build not just new revenue generating customers, but relationships, people that trust you. And that happens in the follow up. And that is, if you're going to focus on one thing, listen to what Ryan just said, go email marketing first and start to build that out before you might do both at the same time. But if you had to pick, that's just an easy thing to do because it is still the only environment online that is uncluttered.
Yeah.
There's no ads. Yeah, you get
Depending
spam
on
emails,
who,
right?
depending on whose inbox you're talking about.
That's right. And there's some accountants with like the 30,000 emails sitting in the primary inbox they
Yeah.
haven't sorted. It's like, I can't help you, but, or maybe we can. We'll just declare email bankruptcy and start over. But in general, people do filter through their inbox with trust and authority. And there's some people like Ryan that probably stick at the top of people's inboxes and they read what you write because it's valuable. And there's no difference if it's from you to your clients. That's really well said, Ryan.
And the interesting thing about email marketing is you could be very sophisticated with it, but you could also do simple little things that, for instance, you could put, we do this with all of our members of our program where we say, strip out your email signature, because how many emails do we send a day, right? We send dozens and some people send over 100 a day. So
Right.
strip out your email signature, the stuff that nobody really uses, like your fax number and your address and stuff like that. Put your name and then just put a little PS under it and say, we help seven-figure e-commerce companies be more profitable through our automated accounting services or whatever. And that becomes a mini ad for on
Right.
every email you send out. Or PS, we're looking for referrals for this type of client, or please send them over if you hear of any, or something like that. So there's little things you can do in email marketing that are very simple that could actually go a long way to picking up clients here and there. And yeah, so I really like email marketing, and everything we do from a marketing standpoint, whether it's our podcast, our social media, our website, our blogging, everything points to our email list, to getting new subscribers onto our email list, and then just marketing to those subscribers along with our current customers as well.
I love that. Let me ask one follow-up to email, then let's move along. For people you're coaching, given that we're in a growing AI environment in terms of its proliferation and use and ease of use, people are becoming aware more and more since I think ChatGPT last year, like it's been around, but that got everyone's attention. And now you've got Gemini, and it used to be Bard, and it might be called something different next month, but there's so many good AI writing tools. How does that factor in for you guys, if at all, with how you encourage people to write, develop content to go out via email or maybe anywhere else? Is that something you coach people through or have an opinion on?
I think in and everything that AI is doing right now probably is having the biggest impact in the marketing world. I can't say I'm an AI. I mean, I've played around with it quite a bit, but on a day-to-day basis, I can't say I use it a ton. I probably should get on that a bit more. We have our team that uses that for some of the writing that we do and some of the blogging and social media. And obviously we want to make sure that we're not just copy pasting stuff, but it has sped up the production a bit, but you still have to know, you can't expect these tools to just, I see from some firms, I say, yeah, I'm just going to use AI to just do my social posts. You have to be
Right.
guiding it properly. You have to understand the
Yes.
strategy first.
Yes.
There are some uses, like if you listen to my podcast, it's 6-minute podcast episodes. So super quick, actionable tips every week.
Yeah.
That podcast is actually not me speaking, it's AI. So I am
Oh,
using it. I
hey.
am using it. I do have an AI voice clone, and I will have some presentations this year for like certain purposes, which are just slide based, but not me speaking, because I actually don't enjoy doing that stuff. So yeah, I am using an AI voice clone for certain things.
Nice.
This might even be AI speaking to you right now, Christian. That
Time
would
out.
blow
Time
your
out. Who is this? Is this a robot or is this Ryan?
that might have just blown your mind, eh? 40
Oh
minutes
my.
later.
If we're 40 minutes in and I didn't catch it, that would be so impressive. I wouldn't even care. That would be great. I'll interview Robot Ryan any day of the week. That's
Yeah,
funny.
but there are
Okay.
some cool uses, but
Yeah.
you can't expect the tool to just do it and have super effective marketing. You need to understand strategically what's required first.
Yeah, absolutely. So have a clear strategic goal. If you're going to use AI to write content, it's a useful tool, but like Ryan is saying, be careful with being an untrained user of that tool. Make sure you know how it's going to work and what you're aiming at, and be careful about sending either via email or to your website stuff that you don't vet, or probably not you, right? Account owner or firm owner. You're going to catch things. You're going to read and be like, oh, okay, I don't know why I put that in there. That's wrong. But the person you delegate to, the intern or the marketing
Yeah.
support that also plays this other role, just be mindful of that. This isn't an AI podcast, but it's going to probably come up more and more, and you're going to find more and more of your staff leaning on it, whether you intend them to or not, because it can increase productivity, and it also sometimes spits out wrong information. So great tool. Continue to be mindful and careful with how you use it, because it's also one or two bad emails away from sending people the wrong information that you didn't catch. That kind of defeats the purpose of building trust. So just be mindful.
Yeah. And you hit on it, is that the whole purpose of marketing is to build trust. And it's not just to put stuff out there. It's not just to put content and just
Right.
more stuff. It's to create something that creates a connection with the person that you want to have as a customer or as a client. And people are able to detect these days, like what's AI, what's not. Like it's starting to get easier and easier to spot that. So your clients are going to see that as well.
Yeah, well said. Ryan, you got a 6-step process. We've hit 2. Let's hit one more, and then maybe we'll have you back to hit the other 3. Seems like a good way, instead of trying to race through the last 4. Maybe we hit one more and then we do a part 2 later on if you're up for it.
I'm going to combine 3 and 4 together. Okay.
Perfect. Let's do
So
that.
step three is, first off, before we start building a team and bringing more people on to reduce our workload, because ultimately that's one of the biggest ways to reduce workload, is if we have too much, we've probably overcommitted. Again, process improvements, skipping straight to that. It's important. It's part of our 6-step process, but it's incremental gains. So we need people on place to take work off our shoulders and that we can delegate to. But before we move to the people side of things, we need to take stock of our capacity. So step 3 for us is to engage in capacity planning. Let's see where we're at right now. And capacity, so I never did time tracking in my firm. We never had timesheets. I don't care if you do time tracking or not, but you can run a firm without time tracking. But what we did do is we forecasted our time requirements. So we did a forecast of all of our time commitments on all of our clients and all of our projects, and it looked like a cash flow forecast, but instead of dollars, it was hours. And we can see if someone has capacity for 40 hours a week, so let's say 160 hours a month, I'm just doing quick calculations here.
Yeah, sure.
And we've committed to 200 hours of work in the coming month. Well, we have a capacity crunch. And you can, with capacity planning, you can see who's overcommitted, where you're overcommitted, and what type of person you need to hire next. And then we move to step 4, which is bringing on A players onto your team. So a lot of firms are bringing on the wrong people. It's causing stress. These people are turning over, or they're just bringing the firm down. And so step 4 is really about building an A team, A player team. I don't know how much you want to go into that, but
I'd love to. I'd love to. It's a huge problem from what we hear. Not everyone, but generally speaking, the macro labor market in the States, and I'm sure Canada as well, and probably everywhere, is shrinking. And increasingly, people are looking overseas for offshoring. That's also becoming more expensive, and also everyone's figuring that out. That's obviously an open source for new labor, but is not necessarily unlimited. And so you've got to find a way to keep people on. So anything you can say as to how you coach people through that, give people hope. You can find A players.
So let me start by saying I completely understand how difficult it is out there. And the biggest headache I had with my firm was not knowing how to hire, not knowing how to retain. And the first few years was literally like horrible turnover and so much stress, so many sleepless nights from people I needed to deliver work leaving, and whose shoulders would it fall on? It would fall on my shoulders. So I don't think there was anything more stressful than that. And what that taught me, what I was doing is I was hiring for skill instead of hiring for attitude. I was bringing the wrong attitudes on board, and they weren't jiving with what we were trying to do, and they weren't jiving with the culture, and it was just leading to a lot of turnover. Or I was bringing on people that were just not the right fit, and there was sense of entitlement, and there was a lot of issues on the attitude side of things that would be incredibly stressful for myself as well. So it really taught me how to, and when I looked at the stats, I'd have to pull up the exact numbers, but it was something like eight out of 10 people were failing new employees were failing within the first 12 months, not because they didn't have the right skill, but because they had the wrong attitudes. I'm not saying at my firm, but there was like a national study done. So that really, when I started testing for attitude and bringing people on board for the attitudes that I required to succeed in the business, like I wanted humble people and people that were problem solvers and things of that nature, that really turned things around for me. So hiring for attitude is incredibly important, and it's something that we do to bring on A players on our team. The last thing I'll say is, because this is a pretty loaded topic, is we treat our recruitment process like a sales process. So anyone that's having trouble hiring, you look at their job posting first. And their job posting is typically something very generic. We need a junior accountant to do bank reconciliations and sales tax filings and financial statements and apply here. You're not going to get anyone good like that. If you are treating your job posting like almost like a sales pitch, getting people excited, saying this is what sets our firm apart. This is why we're unique. This is why we're different. And a lot of people listening might say, well, there's nothing unique about me, but that's not the case. There's something unique about every single firm out there. You just have to understand what that is. If you could set that apart and communicate that properly on the job posting, you're going to see a lot higher engagement, a lot more applications come through. I have a template for that on our, I think if you look up like staff accountant job description, if you Google that, staff accountant job description, future firm, we have
Yeah.
a template for that available. So you don't have to figure out how to make your job posting sound attractive. We give you the template, you just fill in the blanks. That's the
Yeah.
first step to getting quality candidates through the door. And then you have to take them through a recruitment process. And part of that recruitment process is to look at, do they have the right attitudes or not? And that's going to go a long way to dictating success in your firm.
Hmm. So I'm hearing the key takeaway here is attitude, making sure your recruitment process thinks in a sales mindset, how you position things and not just bullet point, tick, 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 here's this, but trying to attract people with who you are, your culture, what makes you unique. Let me ask one follow-up to that. An accountant, I'm imagining, might say, Ryan, I don't know if my business has a culture. Does it? How do I get a culture? What does that look like?
Defining the values is one of the harder things to do for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a systematic process for that, but it does have a culture and it does have certain things that people would appreciate from it. And even like, I'll take myself as an example. When I got my first accounting job, I didn't go after the big known firms. I went into a phone book, and I'm dating myself a bit, but I went into a phone book and started calling firms I'd never heard of and targeted firms that were super small so that I can get an entire sense of the client and kind of feel like I'm in the business, get a full sense of the business as well. So there's people like that out there that I gravitate to those kinds of firms. So you don't have to necessarily have, I mean, if you had values and we can communicate those values, yeah, that's going to be great. But you don't necessarily have to have the values in place. You don't necessarily have to have much in place to have a job posting that is going to cut through the noise a bit more. That's really what we're trying to do. So yeah, I do want you to have values. I do want you to have a mission, a vision, value proposition, all that kind of stuff that are foundational. But even if you don't have time for that right now, there's things you can do to improve your chances of success.
Well, that's well said. That's well said. Did we hit your 3 and 4 just to make sure?
We
Did we
did.
hit them both?
We did.
Perfect. Okay. So, guys, that was a masterclass from Ryan Lazanis on 4 of their 6-step process to helping you systematize and create a firm that is successful. And this stuff is needed and crucial, but probably feels maybe sometimes hard to reach towards because you're just drowning, and you'll get to it eventually. Let me just encourage you guys to, if you've listened this far, if you've listened to any of this at all, pause, go get on his newsletter. We'll put in the show notes so you can go and follow him if you're not already. And also a great LinkedIn follow, great content on LinkedIn, Ryan. You're going to get a lot of good ideas, and you need to marinate around coaches and consultants like this. You need to marinate. You might just dive right in and sign up for his program off of hearing this, or maybe you've already bumped into him and maybe it's just time because it's the 4th or 5th time you've seen him and you're convinced. But you do need to keep this content, to keep stuff like this in front of you if you're going to change. Change takes time. It takes someone that knows how to walk you through the process, because there are ways to do this. There are ways to build your firm in a way that don't make you miserable. And some of you listening to this right now, you might feel miserable. You might not like your business, and that can change. You can change. So, Ryan, I don't think you've said this, but in some ways, what it feels like you're doing is offering hope to people that, yes, I do want a better business. Sure, I want to work less, but under what, right? Like, what's behind that? Maybe it's spending more time with your family, traveling. Maybe it's doing something philanthropic. Maybe it's whatever it is, right? Starting another business. Maybe you want to stress yourself out in another direction. I don't know what you want to do, but if you have some desire to not be stuck in a miserable state, and maybe that's too strong of a word, but somewhere that just isn't where you want to be, there's a lot of hope with Ryan, who has walked a lot of people through this, is quite skilled at it, has done it for himself and has done it for others. And I would commend him to you. Ryan, we'll put that in the show notes. Is there anything else you want to say as a parting thought?
I think you adequately summarized it, Christian. So I do appreciate it. And yeah, if anyone's looking for some help, my newsletter is a great place to start.
Perfect. Well, we'll have that in the show notes, guys. Future Firm, Ryan Lazanis on LinkedIn as well. Check him out. And hopefully, Ryan will hit 5 and 6. And maybe it'll be Robot Ryan next time for real. And Robot Ryan and I will have a good chat about some other stuff. But thanks again for making time and coming on today. And until next time,
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
see you guys.